Go ahead and click on the Controllers tab. Here we see things like the status of our controllers, our NVRAM batteries, and our cache batteries. So if you know much about shared storage, we give cache on the actual device, which means that from an application standpoint, when writes hit that cache, it's very, very quick, and it gives immediate service or immediate acknowledgement back to the host before it actually gets on the disk drive. So what you want to be careful of is, in the event of a power failure, any writes that are sitting in cache but not on disk are subject to disappear in the event of a power failure. So we'll actually keep that cache alive by embedded batteries within this system. We can also monitor the firmware of the system. So we're running 3.3.1 on this system. We just released our 4.01 code. It's available on our website for our customers to download. So this unit will probably get upgraded at some point as well. Last tab we're going to look at is the Disks tab. And here we see a bunch of green blocks and 2 blue blocks. Green blocks means that they are actively participating in our RAID sets. The blue blocks are representative of our 2 drives that are global hot spares. So if anyone ever asks you, Equalogic arrays, what do you do for hot spares? We give you 2 global hot spares per system, and they automatically fail over or pick up for a drive that has failed. Okay, let's go ahead and we're going to jump down to the volumes category. So go ahead and expand volumes. Let's go ahead and go to the activities panel, and we're going to go ahead and create a volume. So just down below that link, there you go. So we use the term volume. You've probably already heard the term LUN before, logical unit number. That's what is represented over to the server. The server sees that, thinks it's a disk drive, manages it, and utilizes it just like a normal drive. We call it volume because there's a layer of virtualization that sits between our LUNs and our actual usable space. So we're going to name this volume, something that is makes sense to us because that's a string for our purposes. So let's call it Exchange, because we're going to be running Exchange, and a lot of customers run Exchange on our arrays. And it's going to come out of the default pool. So we can split up our arrays based on maybe drive speeds or drive capacities and build out different pools if we want to keep our data separate. In this case, we only have one pool, we only have one array, so we're going to leave it in the default pool. So Eric, let's go ahead and click on Next. Now we see it's requesting a volume size from us. So, very important for us to know how much capacity to carve out and add to this volume. So why don't we start out with something reasonable? Let's make it 100 gig. How many people know what thin provisioning is? Okay. Thin provisioning is a way to, let's just say it's a storage credit card for your applications. We are going to tell the applications that we're giving it 100 gig, but on the back end, we're only going to carve out, say, a percentage of that, or let's say 10%, we're going to carve out 10 gig. So what does that mean? The Exchange administrator goes to the storage administrator and he goes, I need 100 gigs for Exchange. Storage administrator goes, okay, but he knows that Exchange users only needs, say, 20 gig right now, and that he's asking for an extra 80 gig to grow into over the next 6 to 12 months. Storage administrator wants to be more prudent with his resources, so he's going to say to his Exchange user, absolutely, you're getting 100 gigs. Well, on the back end, he's only going to carve out 20 gigs. And what happens on the Exchange side is, as that Exchange application starts to use up space, we're going to auto-grow that volume on the back end. So it's a way to over-provision your storage. So you could theoretically purchase this array in RAID 10, gives you about 6 terabytes. You could carve up, say, I don't know, 25 terabytes, give it out to all the different applications in your network, and only have 6 terabytes on the back end. And you just need to be aware as those applications start using up space to add storage on the back end and increase that overall available space on an as-needed basis. So let's go ahead and we'll actually do that. Let's go ahead and click thin provisioned volume. And you'll see here that now this shows us there is a couple little sliding bars here. We can choose how much space we actually want to dole out to that volume initially. So why don't we slide that up and give this volume 20 gigs. Perfect, good enough. and unreserved 80 gigs. So we can grow this volume automatically all the way up to 80 gigs. At that 60% mark, we're going to start warning the administrator, hey, your volume's getting up there. You either need to give it more space, grow it, or maybe get another array, or just be aware of the fact that things are growing. All right, let's go ahead and click next. It's now asking us to restrict access to this volume. So these volumes are out on a network. We want to make sure that the intended server is getting access to this data. So we lock that down for security purposes and also human error purposes. It's very easy just to see what's out there, see what your Microsoft iSCSI initiator sees, mount a volume, formatted it. Now you just formatted SQL's data, and we don't want to do that. So we're going to lock it down so that only my laptop can see and/or mount this volume. And the way we do that is by clicking on Limit Access by IP address. And we're going to type in the IP address of my laptop, which is 10.10.10.20. Very good. Go ahead and click on Next. Gives us a nice little review panel so we know what all our settings are. And go ahead and click Finish. All right, so now we see we have an exchange volume. Reported size is 100 gig. Provision size is 20 gig. How many of y'all know what snapshots are? Snapshot, that's our internal backup tool, right? So when we take a snapshot, when someone says, do you support snapshots? Why is that important? Snapshots take an internal backup of your data. So let's say a virus comes in and wipes you out. You have an internal backup that no one else can see. That virus can't see that backup. It's internal to the system. Also protects you from data loss or file loss. If someone's storing a bunch of files out on the shared drive, and the shared drive happens to be on EqualLogic, if someone deletes a bunch of files and realizes it 2 weeks ago, we can simply restore those files from the snapshot. So they arm an administrator with ways to protect their data, and it comes included in this array. All right, let's go ahead and, Eric, let's minimize our browser here. So what we've done so far to review is we've used the remote setup wizard to configure an initial array. We've logged into the graphical user interface of that array, and we kind of poked around and saw what was available to us. And we also created our first volume, but we haven't really done anything on our server yet. Everything's been done on the array. Since we've created that volume and we've given our server access to it, there has to be some way to interact with it directly from our server. So Eric, if you would go ahead and click down here on our quick launch pad, that Microsoft iSCSI initiator. This is Microsoft's tool to interface with iSCSI volumes. This is a product that's downloadable from Microsoft. We don't make this. It's been out for about 5 years now. It's a very solid product. So go ahead, you notice we have some tabs up top. Let's go ahead and click on the Discovery tab. You'll notice that the address that we typed into the remote setup wizard for the group is already in the Discovery tab. That's because the remote setup wizard did that for us. Let's go ahead and click on the Targets tab and click on Refresh. So this tool gives us the ability to what we call mount an iSCSI volume. So we're going to attach that iSCSI volume that we just created on that interface to our storage array. So do me a favor and go all the way up to the top, and there's a little line between status and name right here in this bar down here. Double click that. And now take your slider and slide it all the way over to the right. So you see two volumes here. And there's a very long, complex name. It's a worldwide name. Don't worry about it. What we're concerned about is this very last portion here. And that's kind of the user-friendly name. You see two volumes. One is called the VSS control volume. That's there so Windows can go in and do those application-aware snapshots of SQL and Exchange. And then we see another volume, which is -exchange. That's the volume that we created during that last step. So go ahead, Eric, and click and highlight that Exchange volume. And go ahead and click that Log On button. A couple options here. We're not going to worry about those for now. Just go ahead and click on the OK button. And then let's go ahead and click on OK down here, and we'll close out the initiator. So what we've done, without too much anything else going on with Windows is we've just attached to that device. So now, Eric, what we're going to do is go down to my computer down here on the quick launch, and we're going to right-click my computer, this guy right here.